answer, and if I ask how, it's going to be very, very specific in this case. I could just say, okay, and all right, have a nice day. Seems nice. He's been so
Too late now.
Okay, well, that's actually not the right thing. You would think you should be polite, but he's obviously angry. He might think I'm being sarcastic, and that's what the tutoring component says. So I should be a little bit, I should really avoid that and just say a quick goodbye and let him get on his way and let me get on my way to the next customer. So, all right.
Yeah, right.
It's just gonna... All right, but he has left.
Some guests will never be happy, no matter how nice or helpful you are.
All right, so he's going to summarize us a little bit, summarize what we did, and then I get an overall summary of the major skills that I practiced, and that's how this one works. Okay, so that's demonstration number 1. Summary of the learner's experience. There were 8 scenarios total. We just saw one scenario, so each scenario is one guest, okay, one customer. It's about 2 hours of total training. Depends on how quick you are. We took 15 minutes or so, probably about average, 2 to 2.5 hours probably. This was taken as part of their initial training course and is also available as refresher training. So if they want to come back, study some things, or really just try to irritate that guy, which is kind of what everybody likes to do, it's available at any time. The results, this was not one that we were able to do a formal study on, and I will show you one in a second that we did do a formal study on, but it's not as funny. But the anecdotal feedback from learners was that the course was enjoyable and the situations were realistic and memorable. And so they were slightly exaggerated from real life, but really not that much. Our team for this actually, including me, were out there watching for several days in a real store, watching people handle real customers. Went around to some different stores in different neighborhoods to get a feel for there's some variation. But these 8 situations were based on real life and were only slightly embellished and sometimes not at all. So this is, I think this is why it's a high turnover job. People don't stay in this job for very long. It's not a lot of fun in that way sometimes, but it's also a job that attracts younger people, and then they turn around and go back to college or whatever they're doing. So also shows you then what a need for this kind of training is, and training that's it's authentic, that's we call situated, it's in a realistic context, and that transfers to the job. So the goal here was to give me lots of ways to foster abstractions and understand how to handle real situations. Okay, next one. Okay. Next one is called 411 Directory Assistance Training. Okay, this is another one this one's actually a little bit old because it's a job that they don't really have anymore, but it's still kind of an interesting one to show because it's got a good story behind it. This was new directory assistance operators for Ameritech, which was one of the major phone companies in the Midwestern United States about 10 years ago, a little more. And these are the people that you'd call if you wanted a phone number, right? So you call and say, I need the phone number for Dennis Thompson in Deerfield, Illinois. They're going to give you the phone number. And what the job entailed was looking up these phone listings quickly and accurately. Okay, so it's really pretty straightforward what they needed the operators to do. They had a special methodology they were supposed to use and a special keyboard they were connected to, which we'll get to see the computer system. And they had to look up the right listing, get it right, and do it as fast as possible. And speed really, really mattered to Ameritech, to the company, because they could save a lot of money if people got off the phone in a good amount of time. So they were paying lots of these operators. It was very important that they be quick. They wanted to provide good customer service, but they also wanted to not overpay. So again, this is a learn by doing simulation, okay, where learners practice in a safe simulated environment. Okay, so this is going to welcome me to the Directory Assistance Training System. I'll learn how to answer customer information requests efficiently using the TOPS MPX computer system, which we only tell them because it says that right on their keyboard, and everybody always wants to know what it is. Okay, what am I going to do? So I'm a new directory assistance operator. I'm going to take calls from simulated customers, answer their requests, and my goal is to be as quick and accurate as possible. So it's really clear up front for me what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, don't worry if you start off slowly. It's harder than it looks, and it actually is harder than you would think to do this well. And we're ready to begin. All right, so this is what the screen looks like. The upper right-hand corner of the screen is exactly what their computer screen looked like. Okay, so they would sit in front of a specialized keyboard with the specialized colored keys and a screen that looks like the top right-hand part of this. Everything around it is related to the learning environment that surrounds the simulation. Okay, on the left-hand side are those key buttons. I can talk to the tutoring component. Again, we use now, what, how, and why, which we've actually gotten a little bit away from, but they worked well in this case. I can talk to the customer, but I won't. There's not a lot of interaction. This is not like the one with the shoes. Most of this is learning how to keyboard things and look things up rather than talk to somebody. And a couple other things. So if I'm not sure what to do, I'm going to say now what. And first, I actually need to sign in. So I've just sat down, and it explains to me how I sign in. I press a certain key, the OPR key, type my operator ID number, and then press the start key. All right, so I go ahead and do that. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. And what I would hear, which I don't have the audio clip anymore handy, but what I would hear in my headset, and I would be wearing a headset, would say, I'd like the phone number for the Treasure Island grocery store in Wilmette. Okay, so it's a particular grocery store. Some guy is calling in, and he wants the phone number for the Treasure Island grocery store in Wilmette. So I'm new at this job. I have no idea what to do. So I ask, now what? Okay. So if I want to start experimenting, I can, but I really don't know what to do next. And so the first thing I need to do, the tutor tells me, is go to the location field. All right. Why would I do that? I don't even fully know what that is, but I'm going to just let it walk me through and try to learn this way. That's where I enter the location information for the city. Okay, so first thing it looks like I got to do is enter the city. He said Wilmette, Illinois. So I'm going to press the loc key. Oh, wait, I won't press the loc key because I don't know where it is. So if I say, how do I do this? It says I need to press a key called the loc key. And you see it flashing. All right, so there's right above everybody's head is a simulated keyboard. All right, so that's the key that I want. And this is a gigantic keyboard that they have. It's not so easy to find everything. So I press the loc key, and not much happens, but it no longer says Chicago. There's some blank space, so I think this is good. So Wilmette, so I'm going to type in W. Now, I don't know. Now what do I do here? Well, W is not enough, okay? Tutor says W is not a correct abbreviation for Wilmette. I have to type in the appropriate abbreviation. Okay, then press the loc step key. All right, well, again, how do I type in an abbreviation? And it turns out that there's a rule. Okay, so there's a rule for locations, which is I type the first letter of the name and any two consonants. So for Springfield, it's another Illinois town. I think someone here is from Springfield, Illinois. Yes, look at that. One of our speakers in this session is from Springfield, Illinois, and that was not planned. Good abbreviation would be SPR. Okay. All right, so Wilmette, I can figure this out, WLM, that might be good. And then I press loc, and it says, no, that's not the right key. I shouldn't press the loc key. Oh, I thought I was supposed to. Why not? I'm already in the location field. So if I ask now what, it says, oh, it's the loc step key. Well, these keys are a little confusing, but I'm going to get better at this. So I have to click the loc step key. All right, I do that. All right, look at that. Wilmette shows up, and the book changed, so something good is happening. Now what? Now an abbreviation for Treasure Island. That's what he wants to see. Okay, we'll do just a little bit more of this, and then we'll move on. How do I key in an abbreviation for Treasure Island, the name of the store? No idea. And there's a rule for this. So most of this job is learning the rules for all the different cases. For a business request, here's the rule. And it turns out what happens in practice is there's some general rules, and then there are a lot of exceptions, and it's really hard the first couple of times through, but once you keep going, it's not so bad. So I'm going to go ahead and you can probably get the feel for this one and go back to the slides in the interest of time. So overall, there were 50 scenarios. Okay, so 50 simulated calls in this one, and they're quick. We saw most of one of them. We didn't see a whole one, but we saw most of one. It's about an hour and a half or 2 hours of total training. And what was interesting here, a couple of things. One is that there was a 5-day classroom course before this where they would learn usually a small group of 10 or 12 with one instructor every day, all day for 5 days. So this reduced the training time actually significantly down to 2 days total, 1.5 days in the classroom and then time on the simulation, so a little bit less than 2 days total. So there was a good savings there. Results, lots of results. All right, lots of results to read. This was tested. Nice thing about this, and in my experience this has been hard to come by, is we had a client who was able to test everything. So we had usability testing, legitimate usability testing done by human factors professionals in a realistic environment. Tested very high in usability, which is nice. The anecdotal feedback was that it was easy to use. And even better, and this is almost unprecedented in my personal experience with clients, the client actually supported and funded and did and ran a performance study. So they did an evaluation. They studied a pilot group using the new version of the course versus the people who used the old version of the course. And they were similar in accuracy. Okay, so they were just about as good as each other in how accurate they were getting the right listings. The computer-based group, however, far outperformed the classroom-based group. They were 1.5 seconds faster in terms of speed. So you're saving on training time, but now you're also saving on speed. 1.5 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but the goal is 20 seconds per call. So this is actually significant. And the savings was around $5 million a year, and this was over 10 years ago. So other than accounting for the dollar weakness, this would be a lot more today, let's say. So this was a significant savings. All right. So I should go to, I guess, just about 5 more minutes, yes?
5 minutes?
I think I can go longer, but I think I should wrap up by 40 minutes. So, okay. All right. I'm going to skip the last demo in the interest of time. I have one more, but we'll save that one and talk a little bit more generally about these methods and why they work. Okay, there we go. Sorry, stuff that was specific to the demo that I did not have time to show you. The other one, just so you know, there's one that was a simulation to teach anti-bias, how to run a bias-free classroom for high school teachers, which is junior high and high school. So in the US, kids ranging from age 12 or so to 18, and about how to run a classroom that is free of bias against anything, race, gender, sexual preference. So it's a simulation where you play the role of a teacher and you have to deal with challenging situations involving kids. So that's the one that, in the expanded version of this talk, when I have a full hour, we will show. All right, but what can we do for the future now? We have, we've seen now 2 examples and briefly talked about a third, ways that actually can work. So what can we do immediately? One is there could be lots more use of the procedural simulations like the ones we saw today. Procedural meaning, there's kind of a right way to do both of these things. There's pretty much a right way or right ways to be an appropriate target customer service person. There's some variation, but it's not huge. You don't get to make up your own method. In terms of looking up the phone listings, it's pretty, it's not that easy, but it's straightforward. There's a right way to do it. So those are what we call procedural tasks, I've been calling them. So these methods work well for procedural tasks. They're sort of simple, straightforward simulations with a guidance and feedback component. Okay? No reason we can't roll these out in a much more widespread way. Improve pedagogical modules for learn by doing simulations. We can expand, we can do more, we can give more guidance and feedback, we can start building more Socratic dialogues. There are things that we can keep improving on. More complex educational simulations. Again, educational. It's not sufficient to just have a virtual world where you get some experience. You have to have something that's going to help you understand the experiences that you're having and understand what's right and what's wrong. One of the nice things about the learn by doing simulation environment is not just that it's safe, which it is good. I can practice on fake customers and not anger somebody in real life. That's better for my company and probably better for me. But it also can accelerate learning. I could spend 2 years as a customer service representative and I might not learn as well from my experiences. I might not know why I angered people. I might not remember all of them. So here we can kind of tailor the situations for what we need. Other models. There's a mobile model that I've talked about in some other talks, which there's no time for here, which is a different kind of simulation that uses a mobile device and a real-life environment. And there's kind of an open question about the use of existing environments such as Second Life for educational purposes. We saw some about that this morning, and that's an interesting thing to talk about. Okay, quick strategy before I wrap up my last 3 minutes or so. Sort of a 3-part strategy for how we can move this at least to the next step and get simulations to really be where they might be more of a regular method. One I call people. So establishing more of a professional network of academic researchers and industry practitioners. This is where I've always seen a gap. I've kind of had a foot in each world, academia and industry, but there's research going on in the academic world and companies who need to put some of these theories into practice, and they don't often talk to each other all that much. So one of the things that I have is an organization called the International E-Learning Association. One of the sub-goals of this is to help bring these together. There are many others, but that's one place where that might be useful and where I'm trying to make it useful. Also do some other things, an establishment of a master's degree concentration at Columbia University where people can study exactly these kinds of methods. That's what I teach now in my class, but this would be bigger. So that's the people side. Part two is tools. One of the barriers to major companies, and I mentioned this at the beginning, they just don't find it all that easy to build things like this. So more software tools to help corporate trainers, subject matter experts, non-programmers to use these simulation methods, but my preference is something like we're building, which is a specific authoring tool which has different templates for, and one is for customer service, where it's got the pedagogical model built in. So it's not just build any simulation, it's the structure is set so that there's some guidance and some feedback, and you as the learning designer are going to work within that structure. And that probably isn't how everyone in this room would prefer to work, but when they're completely new to this and you want to have some semblance of sound pedagogy behind it, these kinds of structures can really, really help. And our experience with this kind of method for corporate trainers, we've done a little bit of it and they seem to like it. They don't feel it's too constraining. They actually find it helpful to know, and it provides a better end product than simply giving them a blank canvas most of the time. Okay, we're using tried and true methodologies and reusing them. And I'd say the third part, which may come from organizations or somewhere else, is to try to share success stories a little bit better. U.S. companies in particular are a little bit bad about this. They just don't like, if it's going well, they don't want their competitors to know about it. So we've been trying to collect more of a library. I've got the rights to show you a few things as I did here, and we're out trying to collect more that we can show and share and hopefully even be able to post, which I do not have the rights to do now, freely, so that people can see more examples of what's worked and what haven't. All right, so I think just on time with the 40 minutes that I had. Educational simulations have a tremendous amount of potential, and I think it's time to start realizing it a little bit more. We've seen glimpses here and there of what it can do. And what I've kind of tried to propose here is, besides showing you some examples, some ways that we might address the barriers to the widespread adoption and the widespread effectiveness of these simulations, particularly in the business world where I've worked, and to try to bring the technical and education communities who are behind the effort together, and also the business world who has real-life problems, and finally get this to be an accepted, widespread method that we can deliver on a large scale. All right, well, thanks so much for your time.